George and Flora's secret garden. It was a chilly day in January and George and Flora had just come in from Grandpa's garden. "We've got some important news for you," said Mum and Dad. "We're going to have a baby." "Whoopee," said Flora. "When?" asked George. "In about 6 months," said Mum. "That means baby will arrive in July." "But that's ages," cried George and Flora together. "It's only February. Baby won't be here for 5 more months," sighed Flora. "Waiting is so boring," said George. "Why don't we keep busy by planning something nice for when the baby comes?" said Grandpa. "A party!" cried Flora. "A den!" shouted George. Grandpa laughed. "How about both? We can grow the food for the party and build a den right here in my garden. And keep it all a big secret," giggled Flora, who loved secrets. Grandpa took George and Flora to buy seeds for their secret garden. Flora had a list: strawberries, potatoes, tomatoes and sunflowers, pumpkin for Halloween, sweet corn for corn on the cob, and leafy salad because grown-ups are always telling us how yummy it is. "Grandpa," sighed George, "what about our den?" "No problem," said Grandpa. "We'll buy some willow, a hammer and these nails." George decided that garden centres were okay after all. April arrived and George and Flora started to plan their garden. "We'll need lots of strawberries," said Flora, "in case the birds eat some." "My potatoes will be okay," said George. "They grow underground and I'll keep a lookout from the den." "Let's have a competition to grow the tallest sunflower," said Flora. "Don't forget to plant one for baby," said Grandpa. Each day as it started to get warmer, George and Flora raced over to Grandpa's house. "I'm on watering duty," cried Flora. "Look, the sunflower shoots are coming up." "We'll be able to plant them soon," said Grandpa. "And start our den," said George. 2 weeks later, Flora planted their sunflowers out. "Mine's the tallest," she said. "Typical," thought George. "Grandpa, my pumpkins are growing so slowly," he sighed. "Be patient," replied Grandpa. "Growing things takes time. There'll be a few months yet, just like baby." All summer, George and Flora helped Grandpa in the garden. "Baby will be born in a few weeks," said Flora. "I know," said George excitedly. "Keep weeding." Just then, Mum arrived to pick them up, and she was early. "Quick!" gasped George. "Hide the spade! Hide the den! Hide the pumpkin! Hide the garden!" Luckily, Flora had a plan. "Hello, Mum, you look tired. Let's go inside and get a drink." "Phew," said George. "That was close." At last it was July and baby arrived. George and Flora brought some daisies from the secret garden. "Hello, baby," they said. "We've got lots to show you." "Dad and I were thinking of calling your baby sister Daisy," said Mum. "What do you think?" "Perfect," said Grandpa. "Hello, Daisy," laughed George and Flora. When Daisy was 1 month old, Mum and Dad brought her to Grandpa's for lunch. "Surprise!" shouted George and Flora. "Welcome to our secret garden." "Oh, this is lovely," said Mum. "When can Daisy have her own plate of food?" asked George. "Soon," replied Mum. "That means ages," George whispered to Flora. In the autumn, Mum came to Grandpa's to help harvest the vegetables and to judge the sunflower competition. "Daisy is the winner," she said. "First prize is this humongous pumpkin," cried George. "When can Daisy eat it?" asked Flora. "Soon," replied Mum, and Daisy looked at George and Flora and smiled. Winter arrived. "Our garden hasn't got much in it," said Flora. "Don't worry," said Grandpa. The plants will grow again in the spring. Daisy is still growing, said Flora. She's got teeth now. She'll be able to eat something soon, added George cheekily. Then it was January again. Dad was dishing out pumpkin soup for lunch. Is that Daisy's pumpkin? Asked George. Can Daisy have some too? Asked Flora. Yes, it is, and yes, she can, said Mum. And they all waited while Daisy had her first taste of the secret garden. Whoopee! Shouted George and Flora. Yum, thought Daisy.